All right, so let's shift to your new book, Living with the Monks. I want to get the subtitle totally right here because I love it. What turning off my phone taught me about happiness, gratitude, and focus. So we are taping this right now. We're holding it for a little bit because I want to air this right before I go off the grid, because my audience knows I do this August off the grid thing, literally lock my phone in a safe, no phone, no TV, no electronics, no nothing. I'm going to work on my book a little bit. I'll probably escape to a beach for a little bit. I'm not even totally sure what I'm going to do, but just get off the endless information grid. So before we talk about me and why I think it's good to do that, what led you to wanting to do this in the first place?
Well, I'd invested so much in the physical side for my whole life, you know, running marathons and doing endurance events, and had a Navy SEAL move in with me. But I really felt like I had neglected the inner side and just the inner work. And I was just going so fast. So I felt to really, again, maybe I'm turning older, I don't know, but to get the whole package, or what I want, and be as well-rounded, I really needed that side. There's the spiritual side, and I was just thinking, like, well, who would be the best teacher? And I thought monks, and I didn't know anything about monks other than like watching some movies and
right.
you know, fringe articles here and there. I thought that'd be really cool to learn about, you know, the traditions and how monks live their lives, and doing exactly what you said. You know, I'm bombarded by information, and I don't spend any time alone. And when you don't spend time alone, you lose your superpower, you lose your intuition, because you're being influenced by everybody else, and you don't exercise your gut muscle. I was losing my superpower. So I said to Sarah, I think I want to go and
Was there a moment that you really felt that you had lost it, or that you could really recognize that you lost it? Because I think a lot of people walk around with that all the time now.
I just felt
just because of endless social media. You're so hit with stuff constantly that it does make your sort of inner monologue sort of harder to listen to, because it's just being slammed in every which direction.
It was a buildup. I just felt so distracted.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all feel overwhelmed. I mean, but I felt really distracted, and I felt like, you know, I have 4 kids, a job, I'm married, friends, my parents are getting older. I mean, all these different things, and then all these different social media things, and news, and Netflix, and Hulu. And I'm like, I just want to, like, I want to just be alone. And so it was a build-up, and then my wife and I were talking about it. I said, I think I'm going to go and live on a monastery. And she was super encouraging, you know, and she was like, so that's what happened.
So what do? You give a call? Is this a Yelp thing? Yeah.
Yeah, you Yelp it. Yeah, Siri. No, I actually found this monastery through a friend of mine who's actually my publisher. And I went to a monastery with 8 monks, which already was a misconception for me, because I thought monastery meant community, meant hundreds. But there were 8 monks at this particular monastery, 4 of which had been there for 50 years.
Wow.
And they lived on 500 acres in the States, but in isolation, 500 acres. And similar to what you're about to do in August, or now, you know, no phone, no internet, no news, no this, no that. And I just took 15 days to decompress.
So what was it like? So you get there day 1. I mean, what was the most shocking part? I sense you're a pretty open guy, so there was probably not much that could shock you, but like, what do they say? Do they like take all your stuff?
Well, first of all, they were Russian Orthodox. They weren't Buddhists.
Okay.
So like that, I had no expectation of anything. And I walked into my room, which they call a cell. The rooms are called cells in a monastery. And it was the size of this carpet, like where we are, and I had a bed, 1 little desk with a light. And Brother Christopher, who was like my go-to monk, sat me down, and he said, tomorrow at 7 a.m., we'll start with prayer, reflection, and meditation. And I said, okay, it's 6 p.m. You know, what do I do for the next 13 hours? And he looked at me and he said, you think. And I said, okay. And he left the room, and I realized, like, I can't call my wife. There's no books in my room. I mean, they had books, but there are no books. There's no, like, it's super, like, eerie quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna meditate. let me start the journey. I took a TM, Transcendental Meditation course, set my timer for 20 minutes, and I sat in my chair. And I started to close my eyes, focus on my mantra, and I'm getting bombarded on how are my kids, my wife, the Hawks are gonna be, what are we gonna do this year? Like everything's going through my head. And
we will talk about the Hawks before we're done, by the way.
I'm sitting and I'm going and I'm like, why hasn't my beeper beeped? Because I've been here forever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I probably didn't start it. So let me just keep going, and finally there's no beep. And I said, well, let me just reset my beeper and I'll start over. No, I go back, that would be cheating. Anyway, I'm in my chair forever, and I finally this is ridiculous. let me reset this and start this again. And I open up my eyes, I look at my timer, 3 minutes and 27 seconds.
Wow.
And I immediately calculated how many minutes I had left on the monastery. I did 15 days times 24 times, and I was like, I just said to myself, I'm fucked. Like this is great on paper, in theory, but this is gonna be fucking hard.
Yeah.
And I just sat in my room and I was like, oh my God, what'd I get myself into?
Were you allowed to leave the room?
I could leave the room, but I couldn't leave the property. This is the craziest situation. So the monks, to keep the lights on at the monastery, they breed German Shepherds. So there are 11 adult German Shepherds, 8 monks, and me.
So they're selling German Shepherds?
Yes, they sell puppies.
Yeah.
And they train dogs. They're world-renowned dog trainers. They've written books, they've sold millions of copies of books. It's just a really unusual scenario. So yes, I could leave my cell and walk around the monastery, but first of all, it's 4 degrees outside. There's no lights. It's like pitch dark at 4 o'clock.
Right.
It's freezing, there's bear, according to the monks. So no, I really couldn't leave them.
Right.
So, I mean, I just kind of I ended up walking 120 miles up and down the driveway because I had to get some exercise over the course of my journey, but I didn't leave. So I just sat there, and the first 5 days was really, really difficult for me. And I started immediately doing probably what I think most people do, and certainly what I do. I started giving myself an out. I started justifying that it would be okay to go home early. Jess, 7 days, man, that's enough. Get out of here in 7 days. No one's gonna say, oh, you didn't do whatever. And I started creating all these excuses in my head. And I started thinking to myself, well, what other goals do I have in areas of my life am I giving excuses in? And really started to analyze everything that was going through my head and put it into my real world.
Yeah.
And I just saw a lot of things about myself, through just being quiet and alone.
How did you break through that moment of I can get away with 7 days here? What was the actual thing that turned you on that?
I have 2 words that changed my life that I refer back to all the time. And when I wanted to go home, those 2 words were I signed up for 15 days. That's what this goal was. 15 days. Day 5, when I really want to go home and I missed my kids and I couldn't call them, the 2 words are remember tomorrow. When you have a big split-second decision or a big major decision, how is that decision going to make you feel tomorrow? So I said to myself, if I drop out and quit now, the one time I'm going to do this in my life, how am I going to feel about this tomorrow when I get home and someone says, how'd you do? Did you make it? Terrible. If my legs are swollen at mile 18, I want to drop out of the race or the marathon, but I don't want to come home the next day after the New York Marathon. Did you finish? So remember tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I just kind of said that to myself over and over, just remember how you're going to feel about this, and remember how proud you're going to feel at the end of the journey. And before I went, my wife said, don't leave until you have a breakthrough or you're broken. And I'm like, I'm not broken, and I haven't had a breakthrough. I'm staying.
So did you get broken or have a breakthrough?
It's funny.
I suspect I know the answer, at least to one of them.
I had some breakthroughs, for sure, but I never felt broken. And I think the reason I never felt broken is because it had a definitive end date.
Yeah. So broken for you would have been I'm leaving.
Broken would have been yeah. It would have had to really take me to a place of,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had moments of being broken and super sad. I mean, you know, like when you're away from everything and you don't know what's going on, you just don't know. You don't know, God, are my kids getting bullied? Is something happening? Is my wife okay? You know, is the world in risk? You just don't know.
Yeah.
And you start to imagine that the world's going to end.
Yeah.
You think your brain automatically goes to the worst. It doesn't go to everything that's great. It's like, oh shit, I should have been so much nicer to my wife because I'm going to go there. She's not going to be home when I get home.
Yeah.
Like you start thinking shit like that.
Yeah.
And then it spirals because you have energy and space to think and imagine and dream and envision and all the shit that's like, it all comes to the surface. And, you know, because it's in the real world, if you're having a tough day, you could say to Dave, you guys could be like, you know what? Let's put on a movie and Netflix and just fucking escape. And you sit down, you order Chinese food, and you have your Netflix and you watch it. But guess what? The issues don't go away. Mm-hmm. When the movie's over, that shit is still there, man, on your to-do list.
They're still there when I'm watching Netflix sometimes too, you know?
Right, they're still there.
Yeah.
And, you know, this forced you. There was no escape. Mm-hmm. This was your escape. So it forced me to have to think through stuff. And I got a lot of clarity.
You know, it's funny, although this is in no way comparable, when I did my off-the-grid thing last year, and for a week 10 days or so, we were in Mexico, and I just needed to do nothing. I just needed to wake up every morning, have a light breakfast. I went to the gym, and then I would just sit. I got the same seat at the beach every day, and I would just sit and stare at the ocean for hours, really for hours, and I'd try to do a little meditation and stuff. But I did have that moment at one point where I was like, anything could be happening right now. Like World War III could be starting. There, you know, terror attack, like, you know, zombie apocalypse, like where you go to like the craziest shit. And then I remember thinking, I was like, you know, you go there for a while, and then I suddenly got to the end of it, and I was like, well, nothing I could do about it right now, so I better reset to this better place. And there's a real discipline in that, in how you can control your mind and your thoughts.
I think for sure, the first 3 or 4 days there, I was obsessed with my to-do list. And by day 4 or 5, I'm like, if a hurricane came and whisked my to-do list into the ocean, life goes on. Like, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was like a captive to my to-do list because, you know, I'm always, and my to-do list for me wasn't even about finishing the tasks as good as I could possibly do them. It was about finishing them so I could it felt so good to cross them off, that even if it was 70% to what I could probably do it, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. At the monastery, the monks only had a do list. There was no to-do list. Mm-hmm. It was whatever is in front of me is my task at hand.
So tell me a little bit, just sort of what that day looks like. So you get up the next morning. Now it's day 2.
So day 2.
Did you say 7 a.m. or 6 a.m.?
7 a.m.
And then prayer starts.
Yeah, so they would ring a big like Notre Dame, like church bell, like loud, which I was right next to, which signaled to go to the church, where we would have about an hour and a half service, which was meditation, reflection, service.
Was it religious in any way?
Yeah, they were Russian Orthodox. So it was religious. For me, it was peaceful. But it was definitely religious. And then we would shift to breakfast, which was traditionally silent. Most of those breakfasts were silent. And that would go till, let's say, 9:30 or 10. And afterwards there'd be a little bit of alone time, and then it would go to tasks. And each of the monks would have a different responsibility, which was just unbelievably efficient. And I spent each day shadowing a different monk, so I got 2 rounds basically. And then there would be supper. Dinner was lunchtime, so they flip-flop. So breakfast was a really light meal, which for me is just fruit. Then their lunch was dinner. That would be the big meal. Rest. Almost like sleepaway camp. You get a little less rest time.
A little siesta.
Then more labor, which could be cleaning the church, doing whatever everyone's tasks were.
Yeah. Did they always have stuff to do? Because it's kind of funny. Like if you think about it, like, all right, so 8 guys living at this place are always doing stuff.
Always.
It seems like there wouldn't be that much more to do, you know?
Because you want to know why? If the toilet breaks, they don't call a plumber.
Yeah.
They fix the toilet. They built the monastery by hand. They do everything.
Right.
Well, let's get a swimming pool. Okay. Get a shovel. you get a shovel, let's figure out how to do it, and we'll build a swimming pool.
Jeez.
So they do.
I could probably hire you for a couple of jobs.
I couldn't do anything. I was a supervisor. And then there was just more time alone. So there was a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah.
But also a lot of work.
So talk a little bit about the disconnecting from technology. I get the concerns about your wife, your kids, things like that. How did you feel about not putting your hand in your pocket to go to your phone, or not having an iPad right in front of you, or television screen, or the rest of it?
It's funny because when I got back, everybody asked me, well, what'd you miss? And the obvious answer is I missed my family and this and that, but no one ever asked me, what didn't you miss? And what I didn't miss at all were things that I do every day that I thought I would miss. For example, I went during the NCAA tournament. I didn't miss not watching March Madness. Mm-hmm. It's been a pivot. It's been something I've loved to do forever. And if I calculated how many hours of basketball I've watched, it's like, it's probably years of my life. But I didn't miss it. And I didn't miss hitting liking my friend's picture in Cancun with a Corona.
Yeah.
I didn't miss any of that stuff. I didn't miss going through Hulu and Netflix and debating with my wife what to watch. And I realized I spent a lot of time on things that I really didn't miss. And if I eliminated some of those, I would free up a lot more time to do the things I love to do with the people I love to do them with.
Yeah.
So, but and I'm so comfortable with my phone's always in my hand. It was hard, man. Really hard. It took a long time to get past that.
Did you feel that there was like a little bit of a learning curve with it? Like when I did it, and as I said, I locked my phone in a safe. I did not know the code. And I found that for the first day or two, I kept going in my pocket, even at the beach. Like I'm just going, but there's nothing in my pocket. I don't even think my shorts had pockets. So I was just like going like this. And then there's like this weird anxiety of like, what's going on? What did I miss? Is the zombie apocalypse or the war started or whatever? And then suddenly by day like 5, I kind of felt empowered. By day 8, I was like, I want nothing to do with that. Then maybe there's a little bit of like a return to, it'll be okay. I'll manage it differently. Did you go through all of those steps?
The exact steps that you just mentioned in the exact time frame you just mentioned. Once I got to the point where I didn't miss it, where the habit of checking before I went to bed or waking up at 5 in the morning and seeing anything new come in,
It's the worst.
Once I got past that, I didn't miss it. I didn't want it, And once I got home and I put on the news and read, like what's going on in the world and all the negative stuff, it was just like, But here I am. I've been home, and now I'm back on my phone. I mean, I came home. I'm like, I'm off email. I don't need it.
Right.
And then but you drift back.
So, have you been able to put any kind of just personal policies in place to manage this stuff? Because I'm still trying. I don't do phone in bedroom 90% of the nights.
Yeah.
Every now and again, it just somehow ends up there. But like that's one for me, so that at 5 a.m. I just don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I put the obvious ones. No, not in the bedroom, not at mealtime. Not at movies. I mean, I used to sit in movies, and if I heard a ding or a beep or a buzz, I'd go under my shirt and look, so like the light didn't, or look under here.
Right.
But now, I became this. I think this will summarize my experience the best. They had a retreat at the monastery, and they had all these guests. And when the guests left, they said to me, Jesse, you're going to clean up all the dishes, like the rookie on the team.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 500 dishes stacked. So I start cleaning the dishes, and I'm drying them and cleaning them and drying them, and they go and they bring more in. And I turned to them, I'm like, this is gonna take me forever. How am I gonna do all these dishes? And one of the monks turned to me and goes, there's not all those dishes. There's only the dish that's in your hand. And I was like, it reminded me that I'm never where my feet are. And I gotta be where my feet are. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. There's something there, because I do find that I actually like doing the dishes. I know that's a little nuts, and I'm not doing it for 500 people, but I do find it's like I can't have my phone in my hand while I'm doing the dishes, right? It's one little thing that you're doing right there. So I do find on these brief moments that, I'm on tour right now, and it's like when I'm doing this, when I have these brief moments, I like doing like very menial, like I really like gardening or just like cleaning up outside or like these things that aren't much. Because they seem to have this incredible importance.
We've lost touch with a lot of those things that help us feel connected. You know, like we have no connection to our food. We go to a supermarket, we have no, unless you live on a farm, like we're very disconnected from a lot of things that make us tick. And simple things like that bring us back down to earth, and they ground us. And I felt the same way. I felt as a contributor, even if it's contributing to your own household, you know, and as opposed to having someone to come and clean it or however you guys do it or whatever. But it makes you feel connected, important, part of it. And it creates momentum and wins. I can't explain it, but I felt the same way. I loved it. I was volunteering for it.
Yeah, yeah. There's real value in that. Like even when you came into my house and you were being like, oh, it's so great here and this and that. And it's like, I really love, like we put a lot of effort into like, I want to like wake up in the place that I want to be at and like make it better and make it more valuable and all that. So for the average person that can't maybe go take a month to do this, what's the piece of advice, or can people do a weekend with monks? Can you do it? Can you just do a day with monks?
I'm sure you can. I think I think anyone can spend time alone.
Yeah.
I think spending time alone, and I recognize like I don't spend any time alone, other than going for runs, which is, you know, but I think it's really important because I think the only way you can really be in tune with your gut is to spend some time alone. So I think that's really important. I think for me, I carry a lot of stuff in my head. I realize that I need to I put everything on paper now. I get out of my head. It doesn't disappear, but it frees up space.
Yeah.
I had a lot of space and creative energy at the monastery because I wasn't cluttered. So now I have a 2-journal system that I use. It's very simple. I dump everything into one big journal. Doesn't go away, but it's out of my head.
Yeah.
I don't have to remember I have to get a kid a birthday present or whatever. And then I make my daily kind of routine and this kind of thing. And I think just being really aware of where your feet are is really important. I mean, the monks are monotaskers. I live in a world of multitasking.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, for everybody, I think that feels overwhelmed or feels distracted is to do one thing at a time and do it well and move on.
Have you been back to the monastery since?
I'm going to go. I haven't been back. I plan on going.
To go back to partake again, or is it just like, can you go have lunch with them and leave?
Just for some high fives.
Yeah? And that like they're down for that sort of thing? Like, yeah?
I think they're down for some high fives.
I guess you'll find out.
I mean, I was like an alien. Yeah. I came in there, I was full of energy. I'm like, when are we running?
Did they have any idea of your history or just, you know, your successes, any of that stuff? They just think it's just some guy.
Yeah.
We're letting in on this.
I remember.
That must have been pretty cool in and of itself.
I remember very clearly sitting down and I was telling them about my journey. I was talking about coconut water and they all looked at me and said, "What's coconut water?" I was talking about the Atlanta Hawks and one of them raised their hand and said, "I went to an Expos game."
Wow.
In Montreal, and I'm like, that's baseball. They don't play anymore. You know? Like, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, for our last few minutes, let's talk about the Hawks for a second, and just you own a basketball team, which to me is, as you know, I love basketball. Like that's like the greatest thing on earth. Like if I would probably stop doing all this. I would trade it in to own a basketball team.
Well, I'm not the principal owner. I'm part of the ownership group. Yeah. And we got a great group, but for me, living in Atlanta as a basketball fan, I was a season ticket holder for years first. And then I was a consultant to the team. So I got to fall in love with the players, the coaching staff, management first. And now to be part of the ownership group with my wife and friends. It's in a city that I live in.
Yeah.
In a team that I love.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's just unbelievable. I was talking to my wife the other day. I said, you know, for my father and my family and my friends and the city, there's 80 plus games a year where I could put nights a year I could put the TV on. Mm-hmm. Think about you as a Knicks fan.
Yeah.
Multiply it by 20 and just, you know, and just really love it. So it's been super exciting, and I think we got a really bright future. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of years.
I know it was a little before your time of owning the Hawks, but how is Dominique Wilkins not in the Hall of Fame?
And I love Neek.
How's that guy not in the Hall of Fame?
He deserves to be. He deserves to be. He's not only is he a great basketball player, but he's in Atlanta. He's just a big part of the community. He's still,
is he
he's still part of the Hawks organization.
Is that right?
Yeah, he does the play. But he's at every game. I've never seen him say no to a photo or an autograph, ever. Never. Just, he makes people feel really good.
Yeah.
And he's very approachable.
Yeah. What are you guys doing over there to just bring all of the things that you've talked about here into the game and make it fun and add some of the other stuff that's not part of the 48 minutes, like, you know, the Go New Yorks Go thing?
I think there's several buckets. There's the internal bucket, and Tony Ressler, who's the principal owner, he's done an amazing job of we have a new practice facility that's state of the art, probably one of the best in the NBA. We're renovating the arena, massive, multi-$100 million renovation that's going on now. So there's like the internal stuff, and then there's the game presentation. There's so many layers. Game presentation, there's the actual basketball side of it. There's the nights that the team doesn't play, that the arena's available. We have a concert. I mean, it's just, there's so many layers of it.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's about enthusiasm and passion and just bringing whatever you can to infuse a culture of, think of your emotional connection to the Knicks. The first thing you said to me when I walked in was, you took me to 94 Game 6.
Yeah, you remember those. I remember where I was sitting for certain games, you know, what you're eating. I mean,
25 years ago.
Yeah. I don't remember what I ate last week.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, you have no idea. There's just so much emotion. And if we could bring that same passion to the community and marry that with the Atlanta Hawks, that's going to be super powerful. And I think we can. We're on our way.
Well, listen, man, it's pretty clear you're bringing that to your life every day, because this was just, I mean, this flew by, and it's like, I could feel it.
We're done?
That's it.
That's it?
Well, you got to go do Rogan now, so I don't want to steal all your brain power.
Man, no.
You got 3 more hours with Rogan. I sense you're going to be up to it, up to the challenge. And you don't even drink caffeine. You just hopped up on coconut water.
I am.
Yeah.
Potassiumed out.
You don't even need bananas anymore. Do you even eat? Why would you eat a banana at this point?
I eat a lot of bananas.
You eat the bananas.
That's my
too?
go-to.
Well, listen, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. I suspect we will cross paths again, perhaps in Atlanta, because even though we're holding this for a little bit, maybe
I'm going to definitely come watch you.
All right, we're going to come to the Peterson event in Atlanta. Awesome. For more on Jesse, you can check out jesseitzler.com.